today's video, we are going to be unboxing and reviewing the Skateboard Viper electric skateboard, which I think is the best value electric skateboard for under $600 on the market today. So getting straight into the unboxing, this is the box that the Skateboard came in. It took us around 40 days to receive the Skateboard, which is quite a while, but this is probably because they're a new company. Fresh out of the box, you'll see that the board is the first thing on top. There's some foam padding underneath. The charging brick box is the largest box in there. You'll also get some bracelets, a USB-C charging cable for the remote. You'll get a T-tool to adjust your trucks, nice touch. You'll also get an extra charge port just in case your charge port breaks off, and then finally the remote, which looks like the standard one for new Hobbywing ESC boards. This is what the Skateboard looks fresh out of the box, and I have to say that it looks super great. I wasn't expecting it to look so good, but honestly I was pleasantly surprised just because the contours of those enclosures make it look super elegantly designed. Overall, the presentation of the board is super good, and I think at the price point, there's absolutely nothing that compares to it. So now we're going to get into a quick part rundown of all of the parts used in this board, just to give you an idea of the specs that are on the Skateboard when you get it. So the first thing that we're going to get into is the deck. The deck on here is 8 layers, 7 layers Canadian maple, 1 layer of bamboo, for a little added flex. The maximum load is 330 pounds, it's 38 inches long and 9.5 inches wide. The deck really does not have too much contour, which I didn't find to be a problem, but it's just something to note if you're into that. The front of the deck kind of resembles a loaded Vanguard with that pointed tip shape, and the grip tape is pretty standard aside from the Skateboard logo. The trucks appear to be Paris clone type trucks. They have that rounded hanger which resembles that of a Paris truck, but of course these are just clones of those. The board comes stock with the 110mm by 60mm contact patch wind wheels, and while you might think that these look super cheap and like they wouldn't be great wheels, I can assure you that these wheels are incredible. We actually made a review about them around a month ago, so make sure to go check that review out. We'll have a card up here in the top right corner displaying that video. Make sure you go check it out. These wheels are super great and I've absolutely loved them every second that I've ridden them. They're so smooth. Because this board uses a dual enclosure system, there's a front enclosure and a rear enclosure. The front enclosure is a massive enclosure. It has this Skateboard logo engraved into it. It's such a big enclosure because it has a large battery, but we'll get into that battery in a second. Overall, I think that the contour of this front enclosure looks really good. I think that this makes the board look overall more premium. On the front of the front enclosure is also the charge port and the power switch, which is an interesting placement for those two. Like I said, this is a split enclosure system, so there's this gap in between the two, and then we have the rear enclosure. Just like the front enclosure, the rear enclosure also has a really nice contour. It also has these vents, probably to dissipate the heat from the ESC, which is a really good thing. The Skateboard uses a dual belt motor configuration drivetrain, which is great for torque. The trucks are identical to those used on the AE Hornet board that we just reviewed, and a lot of other options out there. It uses 12mm wide press fit pulleys, which are super nice. And overall, the belt system alignment is perfect because those motor mounts are built into the hanger. It also has really nice belt covers to keep any dirt out. The motors on the Skateboard are two 750 watt belt drive motors. These are pretty high in power, and although the wattage might not be that high in them, I've had no issues with torque or hill climbing whatsoever. These are 50mm in diameter, and while I personally haven't had any overheating problems with these, because of their smaller size, they are a lot easier to overheat if you were to push them up an extremely steep hill. But overall, these motors will perform great for us. I said that the front enclosure was massive, and this is because it uses a 12S4P Samsung 25R battery. This 432 watt-hour battery can output 60 amps continuous. A 12S4P battery is completely unheard of for anything in the Skateboard's price range, and I think this is what really differentiates it from the competition. This gargantuan high-quality Samsung pack. Moving to the rear enclosure, we have the ESC. The ESC in the Skateboard is the Hobbywing ESC. This ESC works on 12S voltage because we're using a 12S4P battery. Among budget boards, the Hobbywing ESC has proved to be a very reliable and solid option for these boards. The cable management on the Skateboard is also incredible. I love the connector that they used. There's only a single cable coming out of the motors and a single cable coming out of the ESC, so it's just a nice clean connection between the two. Overall, I think the Skateboard looks super good. The components on the board also seem to be a little bit more premium for the price point it's coming at. That 12S4P Samsung 25R battery is pretty much unheard of in this price point. The 110mm wind wheels are also completely unique to the Skateboard. The split enclosure system also seems really good, and the Hobbywing ESC is pretty average among boards this price. We're going to take this thing out into the roads, test this thing out, and let you guys know what we think about next. For the testing portion of this review, we're going to be splitting it up into categories based on things we think are important in an e-skate. We have top speed, range, acceleration, hill climbing, torque, ride feeling, and then finally our concluding thoughts. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is the most important thing in a board, in most cases, the top speed. Beastboard advertises their top speed to be 46 kilometers an hour on their website, and we found this to be 100% true. We got 46 kilometers an hour test riding this board with no problems at all, so I definitely say that 46 kilometers an hour or 28.5 miles per hour is the top speed of this board, which is pretty quick. It does take a little bit to get up to that top speed. I find that you can get from around 0 to 40 pretty quickly, but that last 6 kilometers an hour you really have to be on a straightaway going on a pretty flat surface and just holding it on max throttle, and eventually you'll get to that 46. I found the board to be super stable when cruising at the top speed. I honestly like the fact that this deck does not have much flex. It has just enough to absorb vibrations, but not so much that you feel unstable when cruising at high speeds. I think they absolutely nailed it here. At high speeds, because it retains that rigidity, you're going to feel nice and stable on the deck, whereas a flexi deck you might get a little spooked out because it's bouncing up and down under your feet. Next up we have the range, which is, in my opinion, the second most important thing to consider when buying a board. Beastboard advertises on their website that the range of the board is 36 to 46 kilometers or 22 to 28.6 miles. During our test riding, we got around 25 kilometers on a single charge. It was also around 40 degrees outside. We were going up insanely steep hills, all the way over the hills of Portland, coming back down, pretty much bombing the board the entire time, so I can't really complain about those numbers. I think that if you were riding a little bit less aggressively on relatively flat ground, not pushing the board as high or using a lower speed mode, you could definitely get their advertised range. I think that 28.6 miles is a little exaggerated, but I think you could definitely get closer to 25 miles on a single charge on this thing. And I think that the range is what really separates the Beast board from other boards in its category. This is 100% due to the battery inside the Beast board, which is that 12S4P Samsung 25R18650 cell battery. There really is nothing else on the market in the Beast board's price point that can even compete with this size of battery on a board like this. I'm so impressed that they opted to go for such a high quality battery pack and such a high capacity battery pack on a board like this. Obviously they aren't using cells like a Samsung 30Q or a 40T, which are the newer Samsung cells, but they still use the 25R cells, which around 3 or 4 years ago would have been the top of the line cells. Overall, if you're looking for a board for range at a budget, this is the board for you. Moving into what I believe to be the third most important category when choosing a board, we have hill climbing. And the hill climbing on the Beast board is actually pretty good considering its price point. We were able to climb it up hills pretty steep, as you can see here. I'd say this one's around 20%. And most of the other hills that we tried that were right around that 20-25% area, the Beast board was able to cruise up effortlessly. We didn't try it on any hill that could stop it, and that's just because there really are no hills in our area that would be able to stop the Beast board. It honestly bombs up every single hill with pretty good speed. Obviously, it's not going to go as fast as some of the DIY builds out there, if any of you guys are curious about that. But for a $600 board, it'll climb any hill out there in most people's neighborhoods, which is pretty darn good. It's not going to do it at an incredibly high speed. On all these hills, I can reach the max speed full throttle, and it's probably around 20 miles an hour that we're going up these hills. On max throttle on these hills, you can definitely start to feel the board straining a little bit. By no means is it struggling to get up, but you can start to feel the motors making a slightly different sound, indicating that they're trying a little harder to get up. For category number 4, we have acceleration and braking, which are extremely important to the feel of a board. The acceleration on this board is so good, we actually got thrown off it once. It's pretty powerful. Overall, the curve is super smooth on the lower speed modes. It's super great to learn, and honestly, a beginner could hop on this board pretty easily. The higher speed modes also have a good enough acceleration to propel you super fast and be smooth and reliable. The braking on the board is also extremely good. I was actually really impressed by the braking. We're on one of those really steep 20-25% hills again, and the board is able to come to pretty much a complete stop. By the time we reached the bottom of the hill on max braking, we were able to get the board to less than 1 mile an hour, which I would consider a success and very good braking. Next, we have the overall ride feel, which is honestly one of the most important things, but we're just getting to it now. The ride feel of a board is super important because this really enables you to get in tune with your board and actually feel comfortable when riding it. Unlike most of the other Chinese boards that I've tried and tested out on this channel, I think that the Beast board actually has a really good ride feeling. I'd honestly compare it to some of my better DIY builds. That's just how good it was. I think that they've absolutely nailed the deck selection, the wheels, the wind wheels, which we've reviewed in a video, which if you didn't see earlier, we'll have a card up here again displaying our review to those, make the ride feel super smooth. They're surprisingly grippy, and the smoothness and the grip combined on these wheels make them one of the best wheels that I've ever tried. Despite looking a little bit stupid and not that high quality, they just absorb everything. The wheels and the deck in conjunction absolutely absorb cracks like these and make them feel like absolutely nothing, and you can feel safe while riding. Here's another slow-mo shot of these wheels taking on those little bumpy things on the edge of sidewalks to roads. It doesn't even look like the board's shaking at all. Here's them in super slow motion going over some brick cobblestone type materials, and it honestly doesn't even look like the board's shaking too badly. As you can see, my foot looks pretty smooth here. The deck and the wheels are taking everything, and it's just super smooth. Overall, the ride feeling of the Beast board is incredible, and this isn't something that we can say about a lot of the other boards that we've reviewed in this price point. The ride feeling is one of the hardest things to nail at such a low budget because you need good quality wheels, a good quality deck, and a board that's made to feel good, which is really hard to do at such a cheap price. So I have to say, at the low budget with high specs and a good ride feeling, the Beast board is a really solid option. Now obviously the Beast board can't compete with a lot of those premium options that are built to feel perfect under your feet, but for the price point, $600, this board has a really good ride feeling. Alright, last but not least, we have other, which we think are just any other things we might want to talk about this board in the review. I didn't talk about it much over the course of this video, but I actually really love the remote controller used on the Beast board. The remote controller used is the exact same one used by the AE board Hornet board that we reviewed last week, and I think this is just the new remote that's coming standard with the new Hobbywing ESC. It has a ton of really cool live telemetry display readings such as your current speed, which direction you're going, your speed mode. It has a trip odometer, a lifetime of your board odometer, which is pretty cool. You can see how many miles you've put on the board. And overall, just having all of that information is something really cool that should become standard across all eSkate remotes. I also like the fact that it tells you when you have 25% left in your board and 10% left in your board. Something else I'd also like to add about the Beast board is the clearance of the board, which I was concerned about from the thick enclosure, but it just cruises over speed bumps with no issues. Overall, just concluding this video out, our thoughts on the Beast board. I think that it's the best board that you can buy at the moment for less than $600. Normally it retails for $899.99, but right now it's on sale for $599.99. For $600, you're getting a board with around 20 miles of range, a top speed of 28.5 miles an hour. It'll climb basically any hill in most people's area. Specs wise is the best board at this price point. I don't think there's too much you can argue with there. The ride feeling of the board, in our opinion, this is completely subjective to how you like your board to feel, but we think that it feels really good. We are huge fans of the wind wheels, and the deck selection we think is perfect. I honestly was super impressed with the board. I didn't have super high expectations because I had never heard of the company before they reached out to us. However, I've come to really love the Beast board, and honestly I ride this thing sometimes just for fun instead of our DIY boards. That's just the different ride feel, and it feels super good. So that concludes our review of the Beast board Viper electric skateboard. If you guys are interested in buying one of these, we're going to have a link down in the description below, and we also have a discount code that we've picked up for you guys. Use the discount code BT50 to get $50 off of your Beast board Viper electric skateboard. This means that it's only $550 right now with that discount code, which is a screamer of a deal for a board like this if you ask us. For anyone out there looking for a mid-budget pre-built electric skateboard, I think that the Beast board is a fantastic option. We had a ton of comments in some of our previous videos when asking us to review this board if the Beast board was legit, and after testing it out, learning about its performance, and actually feeling how it rides, I have to say the Beast board is 100% legit, and we honestly didn't think that it would be when we first heard about it, because at the price point that they're offering, it doesn't seem like they should be able to squeeze everything that they did into it. However, they did, and there it is for you guys. So that's it. That's all we have on the Beast board for today. Please comment down below if you have any questions for us about the Beast board, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel for lots of other DIY electric skateboard content and electric skateboard reviews. We have a couple of super cool eSkate products as well as some pre-built boards still left to review, so if you're interested in watching those, please make sure to hit that subscribe button once again. That concludes our video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video.